Welcome to the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Prepcast, where we guide you through everything you need to know for your certification exam. Whether you're just starting or looking to refine your knowledge, this course will set you up for success. Brought to you by baremetalcyber.com. Let's get started. Connecting your network to AWS is one of the most important architectural choices you will make. The method you select determines how traffic flows, how secure it is, how much it costs, and how reliable the connection will be. AWS provides multiple options: connecting directly over the internet, building encrypted tunnels with VPNs, or using dedicated private links through Direct Connect. Each option is suited to different needs. Beginners should picture this like choosing between a public highway, a secure private tunnel, or building your own dedicated railway line. All paths get you to AWS, but each brings its own trade-offs in speed, security, and control. For workloads exposed to the Internet Gateway, or IGW, is the starting point. An IGW is attached to a virtual private cloud and allows resources in public subnets to communicate directly with the Internet. Without an IGW, your VPC is fully isolated. Beginners should think of an IGW as the front door of your cloud environment. It lets internet traffic in and out. This is appropriate for services like public websites or APIs, but must always be paired with security groups, firewalls, and monitoring to prevent exposure. Sometimes resources in private subnets need to reach the internet without being directly exposed. This is where the NAT gateway comes in. A NAT gateway allows instances in private subnets to make outbound connections, such as downloading software updates, while preventing inbound connections from the internet. Beginners should view this as a one-way door. You can leave the house to fetch supplies, but outsiders cannot use the same door to enter. NAT gateways support security by preserving private subnet isolation while still allowing controlled access. For workloads that should never leave the AWS network at all, VPC endpoints provide a solution. These allow traffic to flow privately to AWS services without traversing the internet. Gateway endpoints support services like S3 and DynamoDB, while interface endpoints use elastic network interfaces to connect to many other services. Beginners should think of endpoints as hidden back hallways directly into AWS services, bypassing the busy public streets entirely. This reduces exposure and often improves compliance by avoiding internet paths. Hybrid connectivity often starts with a site-to-site VPN. This uses the IPsec protocol to encrypt traffic between your on-premises data center and AWS. It rides over the public internet but creates a secure tunnel between the two environments. Beginners should imagine this as building an encrypted pipeline inside a public road. The road may be open to all, but your vehicles travel inside a sealed, secure lane. VPNs are relatively quick to set up and cost-effective, but they are subject to internet performance variations. AWS also offers a client VPN service, which allows individual users to connect securely to AWS or corporate networks from anywhere. Unlike site-to-site VPNs, which link networks, client VPNs provide secure remote access for laptops and devices. Beginners should compare this to giving employees a personal keycard that works even when they are traveling. Client VPN is especially useful for distributed workforces and remote employees who need encrypted, managed access into AWS resources. For organizations requiring more stable, high-throughput connections, AWS Direct Connect provides dedicated private links into AWS regions. Instead of traversing the internet, traffic flows over a physical, dedicated line between your data center and AWS. This improves reliability, reduces latency, and provides predictable bandwidth. Beginners should imagine this as building a private railway line between your office and AWS headquarters. While more costly than VPN, Direct Connect is often chosen for enterprise workloads that cannot risk variable internet performance. Within Direct Connect, private and public virtual interfaces, or VIFs, define how the link is used. A private VIF connects directly to VPC resources through private IPs, while a public VIF connects to AWS public endpoints like S3 or DynamoDB without using the public internet. Beginners should picture private VIFs as a direct hallway into your private office and public VIFs as a side passage into AWS's service lobby. Choosing the right type of VIF ensures the traffic flows exactly where it is intended. Resilience in Direct Connect is achieved through link aggregation groups, or LAGs, and diverse path configurations. A LAG combines multiple physical connections into a single logical link, providing higher bandwidth and failover capacity. Diverse paths involve provisioning redundant lines through different providers or physical routes. For learners, this is like building multiple train tracks between two cities, so traffic continues smoothly even if one line is disrupted. Enterprises use these strategies to ensure Direct Connect remains reliable under stress. It's important to distinguish the role of Amazon Route 53. While Route 53 is a DNS service that helps direct users to resources, it is not itself a connectivity option. DNS translates names into IP addresses, helping route users to endpoints, but it doesn't move traffic. Beginners should remember that connectivity is about the roadways, while DNS is the map that guides users along them. Confusing these roles is a common exam pitfall. AWS Transit Gateway simplifies hybrid and multi-VPC architectures by acting as a central hub for connectivity. Instead of creating many peer-to-peer links, networks connect into a transit gateway, which then routes traffic appropriately. Beginners should think of it as an airport hub. Flights from many smaller cities converge at the hub, where connections to other destinations are made. Transit Gateway reduces complexity and scales more effectively than building numerous point-to-point links. Hybrid routing often uses Border Gateway Protocol, or BGP, to exchange routing information dynamically between AWS and on-premises networks. This ensures routes adapt automatically if links change or fail. For beginners, BGP is like a traffic navigation system that updates routes in real time, redirecting drivers around accidents or closures. Without dynamic routing, hybrid environments would be rigid and brittle, unable to adapt to changing conditions. Finally, performance factors like latency, throughput, and jitter influence connectivity design. VPN connections are cost-effective but subject to internet variability. Direct Connect offers predictable performance but requires more investment. Internet gateways provide global reach but expose resources unless secured. Beginners should remember that performance choices tie directly to business requirements. Financial trading platforms may demand low latency with Direct Connect, while small businesses may be fine with VPN. Choosing the right tool ensures connectivity aligns with workload needs. Across all connectivity options, security remains a priority. Encryption protects VPN traffic, IAM roles and security groups control access, and monitoring ensures visibility. Beginners should remember that the road chosen doesn't remove responsibility. Guardrails, locks, and surveillance must always be in place. Whether traffic flows over public highways, secure tunnels, or private railways, it must remain controlled and auditable. Connectivity design is as much about protecting pathways as it is about building them. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. When selecting between Internet, VPN, and Direct Connect, the decision depends on use case and requirements. Internet access through an Internet gateway is simplest and cheapest, but it exposes resources unless carefully protected with firewalls and security groups. VPNs provide secure tunnels over the public Internet, balancing cost with encryption, though they are still subject to Internet variability. Direct Connect offers private, dedicated links with predictable performance, but requires more investment and planning. Beginners should think of this as choosing between a public road, a rented armored car on that road, or building your own private rail line. Each has its place depending on how critical performance and security are. Cost trade-offs are central to connectivity choices. Internet access is low cost but less controlled. VPNs incur hourly and data transfer charges but provide strong security. Direct Connect carries higher setup and ongoing fees, but its predictable bandwidth may reduce long-term costs for large data transfers. Beginners should remember that data transfer pricing also applies. Sending data out of AWS incurs costs, and the path chosen influences how much. Awareness of egress fees and transfer volumes ensures surprises don't appear on the bill. High availability requires different patterns for each connectivity option. With internet access, redundancy comes from deploying across multiple availability zones and regions. For VPNs, resilience is achieved with redundant tunnels across multiple AWS endpoints. With Direct Connect, redundancy requires multiple connections, often across diverse physical paths and providers. Beginners should see this as planning backup routes. Whether it's multiple roads, tunnels, or train tracks, a single path is never enough for mission-critical workloads. The exam often rewards answers that build in redundancy. Multi-region connectivity introduces another layer of complexity. Global companies may need consistent private links across continents, requiring multiple Direct Connect locations or a mesh of VPNs. Transit Gateway helps consolidate these connections, but latency inevitably increases with distance. Beginners should imagine a web of airline routes. More hubs add resilience, but flights still take time across oceans. Designing for multi-region involves balancing reach, cost, and performance. Overlapping CIDR blocks are a frequent pitfall. If two connected networks use the same IP ranges, routing breaks or becomes unpredictable. The remedy is careful IP planning and the use of non-overlapping CIDRs from the start. Beginners should see this like assigning house numbers in a city. If two streets have identical numbers, mail gets lost. Overlapping CIDRs are preventable but common mistakes, and the exam often highlights them as design flaws to avoid. Monitoring connectivity paths is essential. AWS offers tools such as CloudWatch Metrics, VPC flow logs, and Route 53 health checks to verify that paths remain healthy. In Direct Connect, monitoring ensures links don't silently degrade. For VPN, health checks confirm tunnels are active. Beginners should imagine a traffic control center tracking road conditions. Without monitoring, outages go unnoticed until users complain, weakening both availability and trust. Encryption strategies must be consistent end-to-end. VPN encrypts traffic by default, while Direct Connect requires layering encryption at the application or network level if compliance demands it. Even internet traffic through an IGW must be encrypted with TLS for secure communication. Beginners should see this as locking every parcel before shipping. Whether it travels by truck, tunnel, or train, encryption ensures confidentiality. The exam favors answers that apply encryption universally, not selectively. Access control applies regardless of connectivity option. Security groups and network ACLs enforce fine-grained rules about which sources can connect. Even over private Direct Connect, least privilege remains best practice. Beginners should remember that private does not equal trusted. Just because a path is private doesn't mean it's immune to misuse. Security boundaries should always be enforced with explicit rules. Layering defense beyond the connection itself. Private link adds another wrinkle. While VPC endpoints connect you privately to AWS managed services, Private Link lets you connect privately to third-party or your own applications across VPCs. Unlike routing traffic through the internet or even across VPC peering, Private Link keeps connections inside the AWS backbone. Beginners should view this as a private corridor between two buildings, distinct from walking across a public street. The exam often tests your ability to distinguish between endpoints, Private Link, and routing solutions like Transit Gateway. Governance and approval flows are also part of connectivity management. Adding or modifying network paths should go through change control processes, often requiring peer review or security approval. Beginners should imagine this as requiring city permits before building a new road. Connectivity changes are high stakes and can expose organizations to risk if rushed. Governance ensures that only approved, tested paths are opened. Incident response for network failures requires predefined playbooks. A direct connect outage may require automatic failover to VPN. A failed VPN tunnel should trigger alerts and shift to redundant paths. Beginners should picture this as rerouting traffic during a highway closure. The exam often emphasizes resilient strategies, and knowing how each connectivity option fails and recovers is part of readiness. From an exam lens, the key is mapping each connectivity tool to the problem. If you need low-cost public access, use internet gateways. If you need secure hybrid links quickly, VPN is the answer. If you need high bandwidth, predictable performance, and enterprise-grade private links, Direct Connect is the tool. If the question involves private connections to AWS services, the answer may be VPC endpoints or private link. Learners should focus less on memorizing details and more on mapping tools to use cases. Finally, documenting network baselines is a best practice. Architecture diagrams, IP address plans, and change histories provide clarity during troubleshooting and audits. Beginners should see this as keeping roadmaps and maintenance logs for a city's roads. Without documentation, diagnosing failures or proving compliance becomes guesswork. In AWS, as in traditional networks, documentation is the glue that ties together connectivity, governance, and resilience. In conclusion, connectivity design is about aligning choices with performance, security, and cost goals. Internet gateways, VPNs, Direct Connect, endpoints, and private link are all valid tools, each solving different needs. The best practice is to design with redundancy, encrypt everywhere, avoid overlapping CIDRs, and document everything. For learners, the principle is simple. The cloud provides many paths into AWS, but the right one depends on your priorities. Pick the tool that fits the job, secure it properly, and ensure resilience for the long haul. That concludes today's episode of the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Prepcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode and visit us online at baremetalcyber.com or cyberauthor.me for more resources, including news, mailing lists, YouTube videos, podcasts, and much more.